Good evening. Couple of things before we start tonight. The horse is called Hercules. Who knew? Well, apparently all of you did. I had no idea. So that's Steptoe's horse. It's called Hercules. Please tell me what the dog's called. If you don't tell me, he's going to be called Patch. So it's Hercules. The cart, there were a number of suggestions about where I could get a cart for the horse. Did you know horse cart is an anagram of orchestra? Just saying. Do you notice anything? There's a couple of links of third rail in place. Some of the sleepers have been re-glued. I've put the vacuum cleaner over the layout here, and I've reattached this section of third rail. I'm going to see how it holds up before I do any more. It needs to be darker than that. Number of you telling me how much grime I need to put on the cables I'm going to put beside the underground. You're quite right, although in my defense, I've always been very nervous of weathering. I will, I promise. But in this instance, the underground has only just taken over this branch. And so, yeah, a little bit of leeway, but I will grime it up quite a bit. I do have to attach a few cables to those insulators and get them down onto the posts, don't I? So I shall put the cable hangers probably on the shed side there. But I had to get that done quickly before these characters came and stole it all, borrowed it all. This room is a frightful mess, and I have guests coming specifically to see the trains on in just a couple of days on the weekend. So yeah, I need to get that cleaned up, don't I? I do realize that the Christmas holidays are fast approaching. I'm working a lot of hours. I know I push it all to the end of the year and then have to catch up really quickly. So that's why I'm not up to my elbows in plaster. I do need to get a few wreaths around the steps of the War Memorial. I could go as far as sticking on a few lines of script on the fronts there, lest we forget or something. But in the meantime, that's more or less where it's going. You notice I'm starting to detail towards the front. Always a very brave thing to do, especially with my leaning habits. Now then, a number of you commenting on the new signal and how opinions are varied. Let me just show you where I'm intending to put it. I've thought about right here, somewhere in this area here, as a starter for this line here. Now, there was discussion about, well, what if you put a T there with red and green on there and there? And the comment was, well, then this one would be on the wrong side, wouldn't it? Yes, but I believe that's what they do when there is an island platform. I don't think you have a signal sitting out here. Although something like that would be then appropriate, wouldn't it? Oops, knocked it over. Other comments on this fella. The wiring, it is a little unusual, I grant you. Sometimes when we make things simple, we make things more complicated. Now with this signal, I love how simple it is, but join two wires together, it changes. Join them together again, it changes the other way. So there's no dynamic feedback from this thing down the wires. So I could see how it would get out of sequence. So if you had it attached to another circuit, it went up, the train would stop, it goes down, the train goes. So you've got to make sure it's in the right sequence in the first place. That's, yeah, and the whole momentary contact, that works well on those levers that some use. But if you want to integrate it to an existing system, that can get a little tricky. I'm sure we'll come up with something, but just saying that that's not as straightforward as, say, the coloured light signals there. So if a point changes with those, very simply, if the point in front were to change for clear, that signal could, in theory, go to green. Where with the semaphore, it would be difficult to have that same point trigger the up or down, as it were. So yes, in one way, stunningly simple. Boop. In another way, not quite so simple. If you like, tonight is more of an overview of detail. Behind the bus, I want the road to continue. So I thought about barrier up and down with lights on the back there. There really isn't much space underneath to put stuff there, which is why I've hesitated. And we haven't got that far. The reason I'm holding off on all of that is we don't know what's going to happen there. And I may end up cutting back into the viaduct just a little bit when we come to refit the end there. There were some good comments about point rodding. Essentially what happens is that there should be something coming out of the bottom of there and running along to the nearest points and signals. Now, being a model railway, the scale, first we put some boards, then we put some rods, is just not going to fit. Even if I square it up. So we're going to compromise it. It's always a compromise. So yes, we will come up with something. One of you suggested, hey, why don't you make some molds of this stuff and pour molds in something? Well, I know that's a little bit pricey, but I don't anticipate using all of that much on it. So yeah, I could make my own, I suppose, but it's a suggestion. It's merely a suggestion of reality. I don't like, in the prime viewing spot, just seeing nothing come out of there. Back to width of platform. Well, right here is significantly wider than the other end of that platform. Now, a Leopard's Tail, Leopard Street Station, he's been going through how wide does he make his platforms. Let me show you something on the other side. They look right, therefore they are. Over here, I think I told you that there had been plans to put another track in between these two. This was the Fiddle Yard originally. So taking one track out and putting a platform in, that is the standard width-ish. So that's why those canopies in model rail terms sort of kind of fit. If you look under the canopy there though, do you see the W.H. Smiths hiding in the gloaming down there? There's enough room to walk by it on either side, but in real life that would be a little wider. Couple of things about this station. First of all, if you make platforms as wide as they would be in reality, in other words, about twice as wide as that, they look short. There's a perspective thing that kicks in. Second trick, so you got the perspective. Second trick is that running the trains under a rather large overbridge, you see that one there, or in this case the whole station building up there, gives the impression that stuff goes on, even though you can walk around it and go, hello, no it isn't. Yeah, I'm not trying to hide it, I'm just trying to give the illusion. So that train in the background there, is it 3 cars long, 3 carriages long, 1, 2, 3, which is all you can see, or 4? Well, of course there is a 4th under there, but those things often ran 4, 6 or 8 carriages long. So the fact that there's a little bit of extra space in the platform just makes it feel right. Those trains, when they came in to pick me up to school, didn't fill the whole platform. Now there's clearly not room for another whole 4 carriages there, but you don't know whether there is at the other end or not. So this illusion of the sometimes called a scenic break, but that is one of the reasons that the high level platform or station access exists. The same thing is true of the arches. Look, they're only just a little bit higher than the train there, but it makes the viaduct look long. Where over here they're much higher, well, the arches are much higher, and so it looks shorter. Well, it is shorter, but it looks dumpy, if you know what I mean by that. If you were standing here with me, this looks overbearingly high. So yeah, it's it's more than the standard 3 inches to clear a track. It's halfway above clearing 2 tracks. So often we forget that we don't view the railway from everywhere at once. Where I'm leaning right now is going to be a fairly common viewing position. I actually have noticed down in there, do you see the glint of the rails? I don't know if you can. Do you see underneath the viaduct there, there's a glint of rail. I love that glint in the rails. But we're going to cover that hole up and make this look presentable. So that spoils this whole look. Even though there's no background up there, I do need to get something in there. Probably will do that today. Little things that make a big difference. So this light could really use a bit of black paint around those tops of the lights. It'll take me 10 seconds to do it. I'm just going to move trains out of the way from underneath so I don't drop paint on them. But that would look, make that whole thing look just a little better. There we go. Q-tip type thing in some paint. Let me just daub it around the top there. I'm going to use 2 hands. I'm going to put you down. This still isn't stuck down. It's just wobbling around friction fit. What a mess I'm getting into. I thought I had stuck this one down. I clearly haven't, because I'm... Now, a little bit of light leak can never hurt anybody. But in this instance, there's no need for all of the leakage we had. There we go. It's a whole lot better, isn't it? Now, because it's in the right place, I am just going to pick it up and put a bit of glue under there too while I'm at it. And again, I've got glue on the Q-tip or cotton tip or whatever. There we are. And if you've got a gluey one, throw it away immediately, or you pick it up by the wrong end, especially as that was this stuff. There's a little bit left in the bottom and I'm using a cotton swab to get it out. Note, I moved the train out of the way just in case there is a drip. Again, a very little job that makes a very large difference. We do want to put another one of those further down the track in front of the yard. Those bits of metal are still there. I need to remove those too. Just take them away. A couple of you pointed me in the direction of Yeovil Central Model Railway with the view to looking at their thumper. I've got something on the roof of that carriage I'm not happy about. And I believe they turned one of these into a thumper. I mentioned I wish there were a thumper out there. There's a lot of dust on these, I know that much. So, yes, but Yeovil has far better modelling skills than I'll ever have. They've forgotten more than I've learned. So, wonderful wonderful big model railway. Go have a look at that, Yeovil Central. Just to say that there are some great model railways out there. This isn't a great model railway. This is just me with a model railway that I'm trying to muddle my way through, and I hope you enjoy the model. But it's never going to be to the standard of Yeovil Central. Now, I did read somewhere that they were wondering, should they continue with modelling? Give them some encouragement. Go on. I mean, I love the encouragement too, and I love it when you click subscribe. Love it even more when you become members. But yeah, it's not a selfish thing. It's a hobby that is all inclusive. Lots of people get into this and wondering, oh, should I keep going? Because not very many people watch. I've had that with some of the videos I think are the best, are the ones that you don't watch. Yeah, what am I supposed to do with you people? But yes, if you like something, give it a thumbs up and make some comments. I love reading your comments. When I'm having my lunch, I can take that away now, can't I? When I'm having my lunch, I sometimes sit down with a sandwich and cheer myself up reading your comments. Newspapers and periodicals. There's a couple of these around the layout. What I use them for is when I'm setting up automation or block detection. I put them right at the front of the train and then run it and see if it stops there or further back. And then as I make the adjustments, I can see how much of a difference it makes. The section over there, do you see the little lip on the side of the incline and that whole area there? What I intend to do is cut a piece of ply or something that just sits in there that would come up over that and hide it, make it look like the railway was going down into the ground a bit. That covers that whole area, so it would go up to the curve around the station approach there, and then the whole thing lifts out. So it's much easier to model that way. We've talked about modular construction. I may do that over Christmas. By the time you see this video, it almost will be Christmas, won't it? But getting close. So yeah, that's probably a Christmas project. The house over the back, the bear in the big blue house. No, that's for the American viewers. The blue house. I lived in a house very similar to that for a while. My wife grew up in a house very similar to that. It's just, you know, standard suburbia, isn't it? There used to be models that you could get, model kits you could get and paint them, stick them on your layout. That's the only one I think. There might be one other somewhere else. I think there's a yellow one somewhere. The laundry van. A couple of questions about that. It was my first Saturday job, going around people in the passenger seat. There wasn't a passenger seat in that van. You couldn't do that these days. There was just one seat for the driver, and I sat on a clothes hamper or lay on the dirty clothes in the back, and as we went around the villages would pick up hampers of clothing. The S&M laundry, Sandwich Model Laundry. So Tom, the friend of the family, he stayed as a lodger with us. He went off and drove a laundry van, and during the week I was at school, and the weekends I'd go with him and pick up laundry, and we'd go back to the laundry in Sandwich, and it's gone long ago. It moved over to Ramsgate and then I think Margate, but the one in Sandwich used to be not far from the level crossing that we used to pick up laundry from the level crossing, and we would have to put on our airs and graces, cross over the tracks and walk up the little footpaths to the signal box. No PPE back then. Wouldn't even be allowed to do it these days, I'm quite sure. But and then when we got to the laundry, we'd jump on the chute, and both of us would go down the laundry chute into the laundry with all the hampers. Great fun. And Tom would give me a shilling or whatever it was for helping him out. I eventually was the best man at his wedding years later. So yeah, good friend, long gone, but first job and friend of the family all of his life. So that was Tom. He always drove Volkswagens. He had a Passat for a while. He had such bad luck with vehicles, poor guy. But that was Tom. So that was my first Saturday job. So that's on the layout. So we'll have to have the laundry modelled somewhere, I suppose. Those third rails do look good in that you can barely see them. I love that. They're there. So there's short piece here up to the path, a long piece on there, and then on the other side another piece. And this one's now been stuck as well. And I'll put the daubs of paint. Somebody asked me, why do you bother putting the daubs of paint if you're going to dirty it up? Well, because if you miss a bit, it'll stick through and it looks right then. Somehow it works better that way. But because the glue is still wet, I really don't want to run trains from there through places where super glue has been used. While I'm here, though, I love the lay of that land. Do you see that junction? I've said this once before. It just lays lovely. We talked about the track plan the other day, and we could have run this bay platform, instead of running it there, move the signal box and then run it over there to there. Now, that would have then become a double slip. And you see how that would have worked? So we could have straightened that out into here. I like the way it looks this way. Would it have been a double slip into a bay platform? Yeah, maybe. Here's the advantage of, can you see the advantage? Have a little think about that while I'm holding this. Can you see it? It means that for play value, that train there, the one in the bay, can do its shuttle whilst the automation is going on that track. If that came into a double slip here, it couldn't. So this one was always intended to go off and back. And the automation was going to, originally I wanted to do DC on there, but I figured out how you can do it with DCC. So in a sense, this is cut there. So the automation happens over there on the branch, where if this bay line here were connected there so that it could get to the branch, you would not be able to do that. So it's quite common, I think you saw it the other day, for this train and this one to be leaving or arriving at the same time. So yeah, just a preference, and probably prototypical examples exist, one would think. I really did just lean on that thing again. Didn't break completely, but I put my elbow here and leaned on it. I have got to stop doing that. That's just silly. The one thing that hasn't happened this year that I really wanted to happen was this. So these gates should be open and stay open. There's going to be a lot of fooling around. Oh, have I just... No, I haven't. They don't quite open on their own properly. Maybe a problem there. Now that the trains always go that way round, a sensor over there somewhere that would start them in motion. I need to sit down and play with Arduinos for a little while. But yeah, it's just getting down and doing it. Way too many other things going on to just stop. What else? Nothing much up at this end. I do have to get the this side of the board finished. Going to have to move that cabinet out of the way because this will be a good viewing spot, won't it? The cottage hospital up there, we now have the nurses and the people, the ploughed field, the road that comes down here. Yeah, plenty to do up here. That's another very easy to get at though. So I'm not worried about that. It's just, that's a thing down the road. Tables and chairs. Paint in the ceiling to stop the northern lights leaking. What else? People on the beer gun, the waving teddy bear. Remember that project? Never have finished it. So yeah, lots to do. And the more I think about it, the more discouraged I get. Really, I mean, it's, so much to do, but that's part of it, isn't it? This is a hobby, and hobby hours are very limited when you have a full-time job. But the ideas are the thing that keep me going. What if I spent my whole week working on that teddy bear? Wouldn't work, would it? There used to be a thing when I was working in television that we used to say, if you have 10 minutes, what are you going to do? Are you going to fill the 10-minute hole and put something in it? Or are you going to spend 10 minutes working on the opening graphics? Well, of course you're going to do the big thing first. But we've got to go back and do a lot of those little itty-bitty projects too. Another question I should ask is, what would you like to see? What do you want me to work on? Let me know. And there's been a number of, why don't you do this? And I And on my drive to work and back every day, or when the days I'm not coming back on my layovers, I often have a little think, and how would I do that? That's where the electronics projects come from. So I haven't had a layover for quite some time. So I have a little think on, I've got one of the projects that's in here somewhere is a speed, not controller, a speed checker, a speedometer to let us know how fast the trains are going. But that's not a half an hour project. Another one would be actually getting some of these signals working on an Arduino linked to train controller. So yeah, lots and lots of projects. But that's all part of the fun of it, isn't it? The detail. So lots of things would be solved with a 3D printer, you would think, but then I'd spend weeks figuring out how it worked. But that's all I've got for today. Hope you've enjoyed my little ramble around the layout in some of the fine detail. So we've had the big overview last time, fine detail this time. I'll see you next time. We'll get on with something, shall we?